Did you guys know there's like absolutely no Thunderbolts merch like anywhere? As you guys know, like when I do a review, I like to dress up or at least wear a shirt or just have some sort of memorabilia about the thing that I'm talking about. So I went to the store and I tried to find some like Thunderbolts t-shirts, a Funko Pop, one of them stupid little Nerf toys that they have for the kids. Couldn't find anything. So, what I decided to do for this cold open, I just got done playing Marvel Rivals before filming this, so I decided to take the Thunderbolts and talk about if they were in Marvel Rivals, what role would they play? So, we have Ghost. I feel like Ghost would be a DPS. I don't think she'd play very similar to Psylocke. I think her going invisible would just be her whole thing, like probably like Invisible Woman, where if she's not in a for area combat, she's invisible. It could be the opposite, honestly. If Ghost is in combat, she's just invisible the whole time. You just can't see her unless she gets hit, and then she reappears. I think that would be pretty cool. Next, we have U.S. Agent. Now, since Captain America is a tank, I think U.S. Agent would just work as a DPS, just a more damage-based shield character. His shield attacks would do more damage. He'd also be able to block, but his would be weaker than Cap's. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Red Guardian would definitely just be a tank. I mean, he's huge, he's brawlic. I think he'd play like Reinhardt, but now that I think about it, I think Captain America is Marvel Rivals Reinhardt. So I think he would just be a Captain America without all the jumping and the dashing. He'd be more stagnant on the ground, which I feel that is Reinhardt right there, but I feel like that would make sense. Yelena, so you already have Black Widow. She's a DPS. We already know that. I feel as if Yelena would really work as a healer. And it kind of makes sense within the story of the Thunderbolts. She's the person that keeps the team together. We'll get into that later. But I feel like, healers, they always keep their team together in Marvel Rivals, whether you like it or not. Support is the most important role. Without support, you're dead. Yelena would definitely be a healer. I feel like she could play like Ana from Overwatch, just a sniper that heals people. I don't know how that would work in canon, but there it is. So Bucky, Winter Soldier, already in the game. He's a DPS. Pretty cool character. And last but not least, we have the Sentry. I feel like he'd just be a tank. I mean, he's the strongest character in the movie. Probably one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think it makes sense that he is just a tank. Probably one that flies or something. Maybe a command grab based character. That'd be really cool. But that's my cold open. The Thunderbolts is Marvel rival characters. So yeah, that's all I got, so bear with me. But anyways, let's get into the review. And I'll start off by saying, this movie surprised me. This video is brought to you by Hellscape Trigger, a novel written and published by yours truly. An updated version of my book is coming soon, so subscribe for more information. So yeah, this movie surprised me, man. I remember back in 2022 when this movie was first announced, me and a lot of other people were just like, what is this? This is gonna suck. The Thunderbolts, like nobody asked for this. These heroes are boring, you know what I'm saying? The strongest weapon they had was a gun, and that's still the case in this movie, but it's what they brought the outside of the action that really surprised me about this film and what makes the film great. I can definitely say that I was proven wrong when this movie came out, because this is probably one of the best Marvel movies since Endgame. I'm not gonna say it is the best Marvel movie like a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are really giving this movie a lot of praise, which is deserved, but I'm not gonna say it's the best Marvel movie since Endgame. It's one of them. You have like Deadpool and Wolverine, that was a really good one. Spider-Man No Way Home. You had Shang-Chi, if you want to sneak Shang-Chi in there. And then you have Thunderbolts, and then I feel like there's one more that I'm missing, Guardians 3. So you had like 5 really, really good movies that have come out since Endgame. So if you guys already haven't read the title, this is a spoiler review. All of my reviews are spoiler reviews. This one, I'm not going to go too deep into it and talk about the plot as a whole, because number one, I forgot. And then number two, I kind of just want to tackle the major plot points and not go through and recap the story like I would do in other videos. But honestly, if you guys like me recapping the story while in my review, let me know and I'll start doing that again. I didn't think you guys liked it, but if you do, comment, let me know. So I really like how this film took a grounded approach to these characters and made them feel like actual characters, and rather than just like props, you know, like other Marvel projects do. This movie doesn't feel like an advertisement for the next big event, you know what I'm saying? Like, the film has a bunch of heart, and I really like how the whole theme of this film is just mental illness. So it's tackles things like depression, trauma, anxiety, self-doubt, which I think that just goes into depression. It is definitely the most realistic Marvel film. A lot of characters within this universe go through a bunch of traumatic experiences, and we never see the aftermath, you know? Like, to be fair, a lot of Marvel superheroes, no matter how heroic and jolly and happy they are, they're pretty fucked up. Like, and you don't see that, you know what I'm saying? So I really like how this movie slowed down, and basically just the whole entire premise of it is just mental issues, you know? And another thing, this is probably one of the most violent PG-13 Marvel films. They really do push the line between PG-13 and rated R, and it low-key makes me wonder how Avengers Doomsday will be. Like, you see people getting shot in the head. You see the aftermath of somebody getting shot in the head. It's pretty violent, you know. You have the first scene in the first part of the film where the doctor, I don't know if Yelena causes him to shoot himself or he just does it on his own content, but yeah, he shoots himself in the head. I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? You see a lot of dead bodies with like bullet holes in them. Like, they're pushing the line, you know what I'm saying? I think you wouldn't really see this in like phase 1, phase 2. So one thing I wish that this movie had was just a scene where we just like slow down the film and actually have these characters bond. And when I say that this film needed to slow down and just have these characters interact with each other more, I want to bring up the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's version, not the product placement bullcrap that we got in 2016 with Jared Leto and that one. You know what I'm talking about. There's a scene in that film where they're basically going on a mission to find this one guy, and he's in a bar, and so they get there before him, so they have to just wait around for him. And it ends up becoming like this really, really nice bonding moment where they're like dancing, they're just having a good time. They actually feel like a cohesive team, you know? This film definitely has the characters bond over like their trauma and stuff. Like, they just come together. More on that later. There's a really, really nice scene towards the end of the film that I really like. But they still fail to make them feel like an actual cohesive team, if that makes sense. A lot of people do criticize the Avengers for just feeling like co-workers. There's still the same criticism between this, where they just feel like they're co-workers, you know what I'm saying? They don't actually feel like an actual family. But later on, we'll talk about like the future of the Thunderbolts, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get a sequel, so hopefully later on we get to see them bond over, you know, actually feel like a team, you know? So Yelena is probably the best character in this movie. It feels like a Yelena solo film for the most half. So it's like Yelena featuring the Thunderbolts. I know a lot of people were asking for just a solo Yelena project, and it's right here. This is it. You know, she has the most character and the most development. You see her trauma and her backstory more fleshed out rather than the other characters. And I would say that Yelena is definitely the better Black Widow if I just had to compare the two. But I'm not gonna blame Natasha or Scarlett Johansson / Natasha for her portrayal of Black Widow, because it's just the writing. You know what I'm saying? It was very outdated. And she's also competing with like Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. She's competing with characters that are objectively more popular than her. But it's definitely a nice little, how do I say this? A breath of fresh air to see the Black Widow character being reworked. And some might say Yelena's not a Black Widow. I would call Yelena Black Widow. I don't know what you would call her, but I really did like John Walker in this movie. I feel like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a perfect introduction to his character, and it's really cool just to see how much he's grown since the ending of that that show to now. And the movie really has you think like he's not a bad guy. He just, you know, he tries to do the right thing, but he's just more ruthless than Captain America, you know? Ghost is pretty fun as well. She doesn't necessarily have a prominent role within this movie. You don't really get to go into her backstory as much, which again, if you guys have watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm pretty sure they do tackle her backstory in that film. There are some really cool moments where you think that she's going to double cross the team, but doesn't. And then for what I remember, there's like 2 moments where that happens. I feel like that was a really cool dynamic. Bucky, Winter Soldier, is barely in this film. If there's any character that just feels like they're there, it's him. He kind of just gets roped into it, which I'm glad that he wasn't working for Val. Like a lot of people, when they started releasing concept art and they first announced the Thunderbolts, a lot of people were thinking that Bucky just decided to work with the villain, you know what I'm saying? But the way that they kind of roped it all together, and this is just our fault for just misjudging and just judging a book by its cover essentially, and not realizing that maybe he gets roped into it. And to be fair about Bucky, this character has been in the franchise since phase 2, so it makes sense that he takes a step back. We know what he's been through, like the whole part where there's a whole part in the film where I'll get into it later, but basically his moment that everybody I guess was expecting to see is just written off into a joke, which was funny, but it makes sense because we've seen that. He even says, he's like, I've been there, done that, that's all good. I just wish we could have seen more Bucky though, that's for sure. So I think Red Guardian does have some of the best dialogue within the film, especially when he's talking to Yelena. He also has the most funniest scenes within the film. There's this one part in the movie where Yelena, I guess, reveals to him that she's working for Val. And he makes it like this big deal where he's like, oh man, you're working for Val, what in the world, why are you so miserable, or da da da. And before that, he was telling Yelena, he was like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. And then Yelena's like, well, why are you so excited? I thought you said you were just you were content on where you were. And he's like, I'm not content, look what I'm miserable, look what I'm living in. Like that got a chuckle out of me in the theater. There's also like a really, really nice scene towards the end of the film where the Red Guardian, when I say he has some of the best dialogue, it's right here, where basically Yelena has this whole, basically like a crisis, like she just gets really, really sad about how alone she is, and the Red Guardian's basically like brings up a soccer team, and it's kind of funny because this soccer team does have like a big significance. It's the name of the movie. The soccer team was called the Thunderbolts, sponsored by, I forgot who it was sponsored by. I think it was a tire spot or something like that. Shane's Tire Shack or something. I don't remember. But basically, Yelena was on the team. It's like a junior little like kid league type of thing. And she wanted to play goalie. And Red Guardian's like, well, do you know why you wanted to play goalie? And then Yelena's like, I don't remember. And Red Guardian's like, because you want to, clean up everybody's mistakes or be there when someone messes up. Which I felt like that was a really, really nice just piece of dialogue there, especially because that's how Yelena is throughout this whole entire film. Like I mentioned in the cold open with the Marvel Rivals, she basically holds the team together throughout this entire film. She breaks up a fight between U.S. Agent and Bob/Sentry. Again, it's just the complex writing. We're going to get into it later on when we talk about a certain scene that happens. So the Sentry/Bob, whatever you want to call him, it's kind of just a really, really sad character. He's essentially just Homelander if he had friends. he's Homelander that has genuine friends, so he doesn't turn out to be this, evil guy that he is, like Homelander, you know what I'm saying? But just his whole entire, like, character arc with him and the Void serves as an actual character, like the antagonist of the film, but it is also a metaphor, and we'll get into that later. So let's just go in and talk about some of the scenes. So this is where we're going to get kind of into mild spoiler territory. We're going to talk about some of my favorite scenes within the film. So let's start off with the first scene, which was my favorite. It's when the team is introduced to each other, so we're getting first introductions between all the members of the Thunderbolts. And the way they introduce themselves, they're basically just trying to kill each other. And again, it's probably one of my favorite parts. I really like how there's some fast-paced action. Taskmaster dies. John Walker has a really cool introduction. You can see he's kind of grown since, like I mentioned before, he's kind of grown since Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And it comes down to his combat as well. You can really see it here. Taskmaster dies. And Ghost has some really, really cool powers. I feel as if she probably has some of the best powers within the MCU. It's really, really cool the way they use it. And it's showcased throughout this fight scene. And again, Taskmaster dies. So hang on. Let's talk about that real quick. Taskmaster dies. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, if you guys looked at the Avengers Doomsday, the little chair, the little chair reveal thing, the actress that plays Taskmaster wasn't in the chair. So it's no secret that she dies within this film, but nobody knew that she was going to die to another teammate within the first 15 minutes of the movie and only have about like a minute of screen time. So Am I happy that Taskmaster died? I mean, yeah, that character sucked, but did it have to happen? No. Now, I haven't seen Black Widow. That's the movie that Taskmaster is introduced in, and I'm probably not going to watch Black Widow because I don't find it interesting. But I don't know if Taskmaster spoke within that entire film. I'm pretty sure there was a whole big gripe in the Marvel Cinematic Universe community, just online, that people are upset that Taskmaster doesn't speak, and that's like their whole character, you know? But I'm not sure about that. I remember hearing something about that. But in this film, she speaks, and I remember that surprised me. I'm like, oh wow, she talks. But you really could have just rebound off of that, you know what I'm saying? You could have just reworked this entire character in this movie. Since she's talking now, you could really just have her be snarky and make fun of John Walker or something. You could have really just had her been the comic book counterpart and just build up the character from there, you know? I think killing her off was I wouldn't say it's disrespectful, but I would say it's kind of like the shameless or shameful way out, if that makes sense. But I'm not complaining that they did kill her off. Hopefully we do get another Taskmaster. The actual Taskmaster, whether it's a boy or a girl, man or a woman. Whether it's a man or a woman, I don't really care. I just want the comic book snarky asshole Taskmaster. And speaking of Taskmaster, once she dies, I really like how there was some continuity here with Yelena. There's a point where John Walker just says something about the dead body. He's like, well, you guys are here, she's dead. And Yelena's like, don't talk about her like that. Like, there's some respect there that Yelena has for Taskmaster, knowing who this was in the previous time. And there's another point where both Ghost and John Walker are kind of just ravaging her body, just like kind of like taking parts off of her and stuff that they need. And she's like, why are you guys doing that? That's a human right there, you know? Which that just shows Yelena's sympathetic side. And again, the fact that she's the one keeping the team together, you know? So we're going to flash forward here and get into the Sentry fight scene. So basically, Bob Sentry, when I say he's Homelander, he's essentially Homelander because he decides to, well, he doesn't decide, well, yeah, he decides to, but basically they're trying to escape this base, and this is where they meet up, and they're trying to escape the base, and they end up doing it, and Sentry ends up staying behind and sacrificing himself so they can get away. And he gets shot up, but you know, it's the Sentry, so he gets up. And so I'm thinking that he's about to just clear house, which I really like that they didn't do that. They didn't go through the generic route of this super powered being just clearing house through a bunch of, you know, nameless guards, you know what I'm saying, just cannon fodder. He actually just flies away, which I feel like that's a really good note of his character, that he just took off. You know, he's not really a fighter. Throughout this whole film up until this point, he doesn't seem like the violent type, you know what I'm saying? And so he ends up crashing down, and Val's team ends up finding him, and basically they end up like how do I explain it? And basically they make him this poster boy, like he's the new Avenger singular. And this is how Bucky gets roped into it, to where they have to explain to Bucky about how Val has this really, really dangerous, project going on. Project Sentry is what they call her. And Bucky's like, okay, well, we got to go stop him. So they break into the Avengers Tower that Val had bought. And Val ends up introducing them to the Sentry. I'm not explaining this film in a good way, so just go back and watch it because I skipped some parts. But basically, there's a fight scene between the Thunderbolts and Sentry, and you really do get to see the power difference between them. And I really like how they have the realistic reaction of just getting up and leaving. Like, they're just like, you got it, bro. We're done. You almost threw Red Guardian out of a window. You almost killed Bucky because you deflected his bullets back at him. And now when I want to kind of divert real quick. What are the Sentry's powers? Is he a telepath? I thought he can just heat up. I don't know why I thought he could just heat up his fist and just punch stuff. I thought he was like a Superman clone, but he's telepathic, I guess. He can move stuff with his mind. He can freeze stuff, pick people up. I know he's strong. I know he can fly, but you do get a really good showcase of what he can do. But I don't know what he can do. Does that make sense? They don't really go into his powers, you know? There's a point where he heats up a glass of water until it cracks. So is he just telepathic? Is that what I'm seeing here? And there's a really, really I didn't understand the significance of it in this fight scene. And this is just me nitpicking. But there's a point where Bucky, everybody's knocked down. Bucky gets up, he takes his jacket off, and he goes and he just gets clapped by the Sentry. Like, he tries to fight him, but he gets knocked out. I guess that was just a whole little thing of like a callback to like Captain America, you know, like he can do this all day. Apparently Bucky couldn't do it all day because he gets up and leaves with them, you know. And so after this kind of leads into them going outside, and this leads into the void scene. So this is like the final third act of the film, and this is where you get the one scene that I was talking about between Yelena and Red Guardian. Amazing scene, amazing piece of dialogue there. And so you have the void scene, and it's a very, very, very chaotic scene. Like, so basically the void ends up, you know, if you guys have seen the trailer, he can turn people into shadows. He ends up turning a helicopter pilot into a shadow. The helicopter crashes into a crane. The crane crashes into a building, and then I'm just sitting there in the theater. I'm thinking, where is Spider-Man? This is New York. Where is Spider-Man? Spider-Man is non-existent. He is doing something else. Hopefully, in the new Spider-Man film that they just announced, Brand New Day, we see where he's at. I have a theory about that too. I think Brand New Day is actually it's probably gonna take place after. It's probably gonna take place after Doomsday or after Thunderbolts, in between, maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see the after effects of what it did to Peter, like the void, what it did to him. And so I'll go back to the helicopter crashes into a crane, the crane crashes into a building, you know, just ridiculous Marvel destruction. I don't know why anybody still lives in New York. And so the debris is falling down onto the street below, and you have the Thunderbolts going in and basically saving civilians and stuff. And they end up having this little part where they get together as like, you see them working together as a team, and you have the citizens of New York kind of just rallying them up. They're like, yeah, you're good. Yeah, who are these guys? They're awesome. And then you have this really, really I'm gonna, before I say it, I laughed. If you know what I'm talking about, if you laugh, there's nothing wrong with it because of the way that it happened. I laughed because I'm like, what? But basically, Red Guardian saves this little girl from some falling debris. And, you know, it's supposed to be this really nice, uplifting scene. He's like, there you go, little girl. Stay in school. Read your books. I'm the Red Guardian. Da, 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 da. He doesn't say this, but you can get that's what they're trying to go for. And as soon as I think he gives her like a stuffed animal or something that she dropped, and as soon as he gives it to her, she just disappears. She gets voided. And so a lot of people were thinking when they watched this movie that the people that were just turning into shadows were dead. I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, they just showed this little girl get killed in the Marvel film. But no, so this is where I'm going to get into the void scene. Basically, the void is just a trauma world. It's a world that shows you your worst fears or your worst experiences in life. And so Yelena actually gets turned into a shadow, and she goes in, and throughout the film, everybody has a certain piece of trauma that they're trying to get over. So you have Yelena. It was something that happened in the Red Room where she got a little girl killed. It was like her friend or something. She basically sold this little girl out or something like that. John Walker had one where he's basically like being hated by the media, and he kind of just ignores his kid and his wife and stuff. He's a deadbeat in a way. But you only get to see those two, and then you see Val's too, but it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really care for Val's, but you only get to see John Walker and Yelena's. You don't see Ghost's backstory, and this happens when they touch Sentry. So if they touch him, like there's a point where John Walker helps Bob or Sentry out of like a pit as they're trying to escape within the beginning of the film, as they're trying to escape, and he touches them and gets sent back into this little void world for a little bit and sees this traumatic event. And then Yelena also touches him. I think they accidentally touch hands or something. You know, that shows the whole entire Red Room scene. One thing I wish they did is that they showed Ghost, because Ghost, she just talks about her trauma. You don't really get to see it. Like I said before, you don't see Bucky's, and you don't see the Red Guardians either. And so I'll go back. So basically Yelena's going through, and it's basically like this really, really trippy scene that happens, and she ends up seeing Bob in the void, and he's sitting there just chilling. And I guess I'll just backtrack here because you guys are just like, why is Bob in the void, you know? If you guys don't know, the Sentry is basically like this. I think somebody said it's Superman if he was like mentally ill or something. Superman if he was like schizophrenic or something like that. I don't remember. But basically he has two alter egos. He has the Sentry, then he has the Void. When the Sentry goes away, I guess the Void comes out, and that's what happened. And like I said before, the Void is just a metaphor, and I'll get into it later on. But essentially, we get to see the Sentry's backstory as like Elena's kind of just talking to him. It's a really nice scene. I don't remember it for real, But basically, Yelena's telling him, you don't have to stuff your trauma down. You need to just let it out, acknowledge it, da da da. And you really see how the Sentry he was in an abusive relationship. He was addicted to meth or something like that. And you get into this really good scene where they're trying to get out of the void. The other Thunderbolts show up into the void, so they turn in the shadows themselves. And there's like a really funny scene as they're trying to get to the void. And there's a really funny scene where it's like a chicken with a sign, and it's like for this restaurant, and he starts fighting everybody. So really just a short choreographed chaotic scene. Like I said, the void scene is just pure chaos. But after the chicken scene, it's a little funny, a little gag there. They find the lab that the void is in. He's just chilling there. He ends up talking to Bob, and Bob ends up fighting the void. And as Bob is kind of just punching the void, he starts turning black. Like the void starts taking him over, you know what I'm saying? And as this is happening, a lot of things are just going on to where the room comes to life, and it kind of just traps the Thunderbolt. So everybody else is just watching him beat on the void as he's turning black. And I think this is just him. I think this is like a metaphor. The void is a metaphor for trauma and depression and just mental illness. You know what I'm saying? These problems that people go through, and they try to just stuff it down and continue going. And as he's trying to like stuff it down and beat it up and attack it with anger, Yelena ends up breaking out of her little whatever she was stuck in, and she ends up just running up to Bob and just giving him a hug. And everybody else ends up breaking out of it and giving Bob a hug. And as Bob is being hugged, the void starts leaving his body. So he has people, and I think Yelena says something about like, you're not alone or something like that. But it's really a big metaphor for just how people can just overcome their trauma and stuff. A lot of people were calling it corny. They were saying the power of friendship. That's not true. You're kind of just a blockhead if you think that. You know what I'm saying? You lack media literacy if you say that. But basically, like, everybody, all of their trauma, as they're hugging, it's kind of going back into the void, and the void's basically disappearing. It's a really nice metaphor there. It's a really beautiful scene. Like, I feel like it's like one of the most nicest scenes within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But after that, they end up escaping the void. Again, nice scene. I can't say it anymore. I can't say it much more. But after that, they end up escaping the void, and the day is saved, and they find Val. And, you know, the whole entire point of this movie was to stop Val. And so Val, they end up seeing her, and Bucky's like, I'm about to go, you know, take her down or something like that. I'm about to take her in. And Val is basically like, hang on, guys, I got you. Give me 1 second. And she backs into this curtain as all the Thunderbolts are kind of like following her. They're like, we're going to get her. We're going to beat her up. And as she backs into the curtain and the Thunderbolts walk through it, there's just a bunch of cameras, and they're standing there. And Val ends up going through this little spill, and she ends up introducing them as the new Avengers. So essentially, this whole entire movie, that there's an asterisk behind Thunderbolts. That was never the original name of this movie. It was always supposed to be the New Avengers. And today, going to the gym, there was a Thunderbolts billboard, and you can see that they changed the title of it. It's called New Avengers. So it's official. This was an Avengers film the whole time. These are the New Avengers. And is it wrong for me to say that I think this is last minute? Like, there's no way they planned this all the way back in 2022. I think what I'm thinking is that they kind of panicked because a lot of people weren't messing with like She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, what's her name? Haley Steinfeld plays her, Kate Bishop, Cassie Lang. Like, people weren't really messing with the New Avengers, you know what I'm saying? So they were like, well, let's just take a whole new approach and bring in those are the Young Avengers, but let's just go in and take a new approach and bring in the New Avengers. Let's just, you know, flip it all around, do this and that. And I feel as if that also was because of the whole entire Kang situation that got axed out and stuff. So when they brought in Doom and switched the movie to Doomsday, they also kind of rewrote Thunderbolts and then brought in and turned them into the New Avengers. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm not going to say it's bad. It's last minute. It feels last minute. It feels like just a impulsive decision, but it was brilliant. It was good. It got me because I'm like, wow, these are the New Avengers. These are kind of like the Dark Avengers, you know what I'm saying? Especially with this post-credit scene, because the movie ends there. The movie ends with them being announced as the New Avengers. It ends there, and we have a post-credit scene where it's 2 years later, and basically Sam Wilson is pissed. He's like, you guys, I'm gonna sue you guys. You took the Avengers. I'm gonna trademark the Avengers or copyright it. I own this name. You guys, I'm suing you. And him and Bucky aren't really talking. Sam Wilson is just a baby. I don't know why they keep writing this character to be an absolute dork. He was a shill for the U.S. president, even though Captain America has always been about going against corrupt governments and stuff. Lo and behold, Sam is working for this corrupt government, and he talks the Hulk down instead of, I'm just like, dude, you're a dork. Sam, I just feel, and it's not Sam Wilson's fault, man. He was cool as the Falcon, but as soon as he put that red, white, and blue on, he just became a dork. I'm sorry. But basically what I'm thinking, and so with that whole entire scene of Bucky kind of trying to talk to Sam's not in it. He's just mentioned, but Bucky's trying to talk to him, and Sam's not returning his calls and not on speaking terms. I'm feeling as if Sam's going to make his own Avengers, the Young Avengers, and they're going to come and face the new Avengers in Doomsday. So we're going to kind of get a Civil War Part 2, if that makes sense. Because these Avengers, they're just criminals. They're all just mercenaries. They're mercenaries. He's not going to go for that. He's going to be like, I'm taking all of you in. John Walker, you're going in. Red Guardian, you're going in. Yelena, boom. Ghost, boom. Bucky, you go too, man. You go too, because you betrayed me. You know what I'm saying? I think we might see a more aggressive Sam Wilson in Avengers Doomsday. And you also got to throw in the X-Men in there too. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll just get into the rest of the post-credit scene. Thing. There is a big moment that happens within this. It's kind of spoiled within the credits. Whoever did that, I'm not going to blame you, because I know you have to get credit. You have to give credit to what you're seeing, but somebody just didn't think that through. That's what happened there. So it's a certain theme song for a very popular group that's showcased within the credits before the post-credit scene. And I looked at it and I was like, that didn't show up throughout the whole entire movie. So what are we talking about? Unless there was like a special like screening that showed, like, I know there was like a little countdown before the movie started that was themed to this specific group. So I'm thinking that was the case, but it wasn't. And so I'll basically explain it the best way that I remember it. So Yelena ends up talking about how there's an interdimensional, extra-dimensional threat coming to Earth. And Bucky, she ends up saying like something's breaking the atmosphere, and Bucky's like, you might as well put a camera on it or something, like just show it on this. Basically, they end up seeing a spaceship. A spaceship is breaking through the orbit. I think John Walker, they all get up, they look at it, and John Walker's like, that's a cool ship. And as the ship is flying, it kind of turns and it shows the Fantastic Four logo. So the Fantastic Four have entered the 616 universe, and two things were spoiled within the ending of this film. The post-credit scene, which showcased the credits for the post-credit scene, which showcased Fantastic Four, the first steps, the main theme song of the movie. They showcased that. And also, did the ending of Fantastic Four just get spoiled? If so, I feel like Marvel has this big issue where they love to promote the next film and spoil the film that hasn't come out yet, because they did the same thing with Endgame and Far From Home. Like, you know that Thanos was gonna lose, but you dropping the Far From, and I think this was Sony, it was somebody, whoever decided to release the Far From Home trailer months before Avengers Endgame was gonna drop was probably one of the most dumbest decisions, because you just killed the tension of Avengers Endgame. They're just like, well, dang, like I mean, it was a cool trailer, but like, man, the tension and the anticipation is just gone, because now I know that Thanos loses and everything's okay, you know? Peter Parker's alive, you know what I'm saying? Like, but essentially, again, like I said before, the Fantastic Four are revealed to be coming to 616, and this just says, like, this makes me think, did they lose in their movie? Because a lot of people were theorizing that the Fantastic Four don't win in their movie. Like, they lose to Galactus, which causes them to come to Earth. And a lot of people are saying that Doctor Doom comes in and blows up their planet, and I don't really think that's in Doctor Doom's character to blow up the Earth. I think he just wants to rule it. He wouldn't destroy it because it's in his country. I don't know. I know some of his character is about defending his country and his people. Aren't they on planet Earth? Why would he want to blow it up? You know what I'm saying? Why would he want to blow up that land? I feel like that's out of character. That doesn't really make any sense. But so this is definitely kicking off Avengers Doomsday, which comes out next year. I think May of next year. So does GTA 6. May's about to be a banger year. But anyways, this does kick off the roadmap to Avengers Doomsday. And what's crazy is after the Fantastic Four, I don't think we get any more build up to Avengers Doomsday. That's gonna be something, you know what I'm saying? Not that I remember. There's no TV shows coming out, nothing. After the Fantastic Four, it's Avengers Doomsday, which let's just hope the Fantastic Four has a killer post-credit scene. Pretty sure there are some rumors that there's some reshoots, so I'm pretty sure they're introducing Doom in one of those post-credit scenes. This just makes me excited for the Fantastic Four because now I want to see like what happened. Did they lose? Does Doom show up? What's going on? Marvel is doing something right when it comes to their movies right now. They're actually taking a step back and just having fun. Just have fun. Let your directors direct. Don't let the studio come in. Like, the studio came in and basically eviscerated Cap 4, from what I'm assuming, because Cap 4 is a mess. It's a mess. We don't need a single Captain America movie ever again after that. I'd like to say Captain America 4 doesn't exist. You have that perfect trilogy. You have First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War. You have that perfect trilogy. Cap 4 doesn't exist. You can just put that in the pile of stinkers that they're trying to forget. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that was my Thunderbolts review right there. Again, an amazing, really good film. Very solid. If I had to rate it, I'd give it like probably an 8.5, 9 out of 10. I'm not one of those people that's like, there's no such thing as a 10 out of 10. There's some 10 out of 10 things, don't get me wrong. But some of the criticism that I had, like the action is not as, like if I'm comparing the action to other Marvel films, it's not as nearly as good as like Winter Soldier or Deadpool and Wolverine. I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine has like top tier action just because it's rated R, you know what I'm saying? Because Marvel comics are like very, very violent. Anyways, that was it. That was my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment and let me know what you thought about Thunderbolts / the New Avengers. What do we call it? Do we call it Thunderbolts / New Avengers, or are we just calling it the New Avengers? I feel like a lot of people are confused. They're like, where did this new Avengers movie come from? I thought it was called Thunderbolts. Is this a sequel? Did they just drop a sequel? Nobody's thinking that. I'm just stretching. I'm messing with you. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Comment and let me know what you think about the film. If you liked it, loved it, hated it, what would you change about it, anything. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. So long.